order to understand the time period, there's the era of Romanticism. Let's couch it in 1850. These are the books that were published between 1850 and 1855, which we call the American Renaissance. Write this down. The American Renaissance. 5-year period, largely 1850 to 1855. And these are some of the works that were published. The Scarlet Letter in 1850. A little book called Moby Dick by Herman Melville. Uncle Tom's Cabin, Harriet Beecher Stowe. A little work called Leaves of Grass by Walt Whitman. Huge, monumental work. Probably one of the greatest works of poetry in the world, but definitely in America. And we'll be studying that in February. Right. Henry David Thoreau's Walden, another monumental, influential work that we'll be studying in 2 weeks. Emerson's essays, the godfather of this group, the grandfather, the father of this group, symbolically, in all his essays. Right. We call this period in America the Athens of New England because it was a flowering of the arts. And it was all taking place in and around the tiny little village of Concord, Massachusetts, which is famous in history for what, Jared? What's it famous for, Concord? Yeah.
It was involved in the revolution.
Yeah, the Concord, Lexington Concord. Right, Lexington Concord. The revolution, right? The first battle of the Revolution occurred on Lexington Green. 2 miles up, you get to Concord, at Concord Bridge, and I'll be showing you pictures because Hawthorne was writing this book, Scarlet Letter, steps away from Concord Bridge, where the Battle of Concord took place, repulsed the British back to Lexington, back to Boston, and initiated the siege of Boston and the American Revolution. Right? But think about this. Think about how significant it is that these works of American literature all came from a small little window of time by such heavyweights. These are heavyweights of American literature. These aren't lightweights. These are heavyweights. Little Women you could throw in there too. Little Women, Louisa May Alcott. There's another work I forgot. And there are other works from other influential writers at the time. But these are the heavyweights. Moby Dick, Scarlet Letter, Walden, Uncle Tom's Cabin. Think about the significance of this time period and with all this little village. Imagine if all of these writers came from Gibbsboro. And within 2015 to 2020, the little town of Gibbsboro, New Jersey, had 5 best-selling authors at the same time that are read 200, 300 years from now. Pretty incredible stuff. Okay, this is what happened in Concord. And we need to consider what's the nature of groups? Why do we have such writers, such artists in one location at one time? What is it about groups that make them so successful? We can consider other groups that have been successful. Let's use an example of the British invasion. Think about the heavyweights that came out of 1963, 1964 Britain. A little band called the Beatles. Another little band called the Rolling Stones. Another little band called the Who. Another band called the Kinks. The Animals. I can go down the line. These are the heavyweights of classic rock. Right? We can also go to Seattle and the grunge sound. A little band called Pearl Jam. Nirvana, Soundgarden, right? The grunge sound, all from Seattle, Washington. We can go to the Lost Generation, the heavyweights of Fitzgerald, Hemingway, Ezra Pound, John Dos Passos, Sherwood Anderson, Gertrude Stein, James Joyce. It's like these are heavyweights of 20th century literature writing in Paris from 1922 to 1928. All right. Why is this such a significant thing? The French Impressionist painters, right? What's the function? What do you think these groups Why does this happen? Why does success happen in such bunches, in such small little locality, like a Paris, like a Concord, like a Britain 1963? What is it? Any speculation?
Do they feed off of one another?
They perhaps feed off each other. Very good. What's another example?
There's like more to influence them. Like you say, when something happens in a town, they all like want to write about it or like sing about it.
It could be like a beacon. Like, wow, you know, some great stuff is happening in Paris. Let me move there. That's what Fitzgerald did. Oh, this great stuff's happening. Let me move there. Well, let me move there too. Oh, let me move here, right? So it becomes a magnet for other artists that come in to be influenced. Any other suggestions, other influences? Yeah.
I think you said a lot about romance is rebellion, and I think there's a lot of easy things to rebel against in that area, especially with its history.
With its history. All right, so it's this beacon. All right. Any other ideas that you can think of? Feeding off each other, influencing each other. Right? Competition's also a part of it. If you're all competing against one another, right? It's like a sports team. If it's close to your school, guess what? That's going to be a greater rivalry than a team that lives across the state, because you don't see each other. But if you see each other right across Evesham Road and you're Cherry Hill East, and we're Cherry Hill and we're Eastern, okay, there's going to be more of a rivalry there because you're only about 2 miles apart. But if you're all the way up in North Jersey or Central Pennsylvania, it's not much of a rivalry. So there's that competition factor. I wrote something, let me write something that's just as good to impress my friends. And these were all friends. Thoreau, Emerson, they were like Luke Skywalker and Yoda, right? Skywalker is Thoreau and Emerson is Yoda. Melville and Hawthorne vacationed together in the Berkshires of Massachusetts, and Hawthorne helped Melville with the idea of Moby Dick. A very dark book. Did anyone read Moby Dick for summer reading? It's a little booklet that big, right? Definitely worth reading, right? Taking the time. But all influencing each other, all motivating each other, all these great minds coming together to create this force of American literature. And in Emerson was really the one in Concord that was the impetus. All right, we'll be getting to Emerson shortly. But he was like, listen, we're American now. Why are we still reading Shakespeare? Why are we still reading Keats and Byron? Great writers, amazing writers, but they're British. We are now our own country. We need our own arts. We need our own musicians. Why are we feeding on the remnants of the past, of the